Well, years ago, Princeton Seminary, wanted to do an experiment. So they gathered some seminary students, and they broke them into two groups. Both groups were told to, basically it was going to be just a test to see how quickly they could put together a sermon. So they were gathered in a building and told, hey, here's the passage that you're to work on, and you're to work on. You got a limited amount of time to put this passage together, and then once we're ready, we'll send you over to another building where you can give this talk. And they broke with these two groups, with this one group, broke them into two groups. Half the group, when the time came for them to go to deliver their message, they just said, okay, they're ready for you. You can go ahead and head over now. They might not be ready when you get there, but they'll be ready soon, so go ahead and make your way over. The other group, they told them, hey, we just got a call. They're ready for you right now. We need you to hurry over there. You're actually kind of late for your talk. In between the two buildings, they placed an individual, a man, and had him sit on the curb and kind of slump over and moan, honestly, to be obviously in distress. The test was, okay, let's see how many of these seminary students would stop on their way over to talk to this gentleman who would see this man in need and would stop what they're doing and see if he's okay, see if they could offer assistance. What percentage would you guess of the seminary students who weren't told that they were in a hurry, just were told, hey, go ahead and head over, what percentage of them would stop? And then would hurry make a difference? The group that was told you need to get over there right now, would it make a difference in how many stopped and what percentage? And would that difference be significant or not? We'll finish that story in a few minutes. Let's turn our Bibles to Ephesians chapter 5. If you don't have if you use a paper Bible, if you use your phone, however you want to get to it is great. I'm excited to share with you, being that it is the last day of 2017, because I know that we all have New Year's resolutions. We're all going to lose weight this year. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be so faithful in exercise, eating right. We're all going to be debt-free by the end of 2018. Well, I want to add one other thing for you to think about today. I want, and this isn't so much of a resolution, but it's a good natural break to say, actually, this is something we can start today as we end 2017. Ephesians 1 and 2 is a great verse. If you're somebody who's in the market for a life verse, this could be an option for you, something to commit to memory and make it a focus. Paul writes in Ephesians 5, therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love, just as Christ also loved you and gave himself up for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God as a fragrant aroma. Now, if you're not familiar with Ephesians or most of Paul's letters, Paul generally, and it's certainly true in Ephesians, spends the first couple chapters talking about really theology, talking about the greatness of God, his power, things that we should know about God, and then he transitions to going, okay, how should we now live based on that? And Ephesians 4, great chapter. You've probably been around the church a lot. You've probably had verses memorized in Ephesians 4. It's a great passage, especially the last half, to take your kids through. It's talking about how we treat each other, about our tongue, about anger, all those things. And after summarizing it, transitioning from there, he says, therefore, based on all of that, sum it up for you, be imitators of God, walk in love. And that's what I want to focus on today, is walking in love. Now, the idea is that this would be the primary visible attribute in our lives, that this is just what we do. When we're out in our life, we seek to love God and love people. Now, if we were to ask a group of unchurched people, and there have been surveys done, hey, what do you think of Christians? How would you describe Christians? If you've seen those surveys, love is not what comes to mind, unfortunately. And the crazy thing is, it's not that we don't know this is what we're called to. If you've been in the church for any length of time, if you're familiar with the Bible, the greatest commandments, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. This isn't new information, but yet we struggle, don't we? As a Christian culture, we struggle to be characterized by loving people. Now, I don't want to tear down Christian culture. I really don't want to tear down any of you. I want to try to actually be helpful today. Because I think sometimes when we look at these commands, these things that we're called to do, we don't actually stop and go, what's getting in the way? What are the barriers? Why aren't we doing this? Why isn't this easier for us? And if we can eliminate some of the barriers and address some of those things, then maybe we'll actually be able to walk in love as we're called to do. So as we start this off, I want to clarify up front that no matter what version you have, if it's on your phone, if it's a paper Bible, newer version, older version, you'll notice there is no asterisk after that with a list at the bottom of all the people that you don't have to love, right? There's no exceptions to this. It's not like, hey, unless they don't vote like you. Unless they don't live like you, unless they don't believe like you. We're to be loving toward all people. And when are we to walk in love? When is Paul talking about? All the time. It's just what we do. When we're at home, when we're at work, when we're at school, wherever we are, that we're walking in love. I believe that one of the major barriers, and the one that we're going to spend most of our time talking about today, is that we can't walk in love if we're always running. We can't walk in love if we're always running. Hurry. When we are hurried, we are unable to love in the way that we are called to. I don't think it's the only reason or necessarily even the primary reason for each of you, so I'm going to offer a couple of other reasons. I want to touch on them briefly, just so you can make sure that you take something home today. These are free at no additional charge, these 2 extra points. Why don't we walk in love? The first one that I think has always been true, but it is becoming more and more prevalent in our society. This idea, basically culture's pushed us to where we so are often focused on ourselves that we don't notice other people. I mean, again, it's always been a problem, but we've kind of turned self-focus into an art form. Now, I don't know, those of you who are maybe my age or a little bit older than me, you can vouch for that I'm telling the truth. Those of you who are a lot younger than me, this may seem like crazy to you, but there was a day when people would actually use cameras to take pictures of other people. I know, it's crazy amount. Like, why would people do that? People honestly used to take pictures of scenery so they could reflect on something beautiful, or they would take pictures of their friends and their family so they could remember special times with them. Well, now, for so many people, the main subject of our pictures is us. I mean, you couldn't even take a picture of yourself without a lot of effort up until a few years ago. And if we're so focused on us and capturing our life as if we're like the main character in this great story, we're not. We're just an extra in God's great story. But if we live our life thinking that, hey, we're the main event, and we walk around like this taking pictures of ourselves, it's really hard to notice other people. Like, we need to put our phones down. Recognize that, man, this story is not about us. The story is about God and about what He wants to do through us and in us as we live our lives. We're self-focused. If we're always seeking affirmation and attention from other people on social media, then we're going to do that in real life. That makes it nearly impossible for us to focus on other people and walking in love. John Maxwell, one of my favorite leadership authors, I don't know if it's an original quote with him. I heard it first from him. But this will maybe help some of you today. The whole world, with one minor exception, is made up of other people. It's not about me. It's not about me. There's no environment where I can walk into a room and think, this is all about me. That's one major hindrance from us walking in love, is that we're just so focused on ourselves. There's another one that I want to share, and this is, we wouldn't like to necessarily admit this, but I think if we're honest, we would. Like, we intentionally don't walk in love with some people. I mean, this is, I'm sure, happened to some of you. You'll be walking, whether it's at the hallway at school or you're at the store or somewhere, and you see somebody that you know, but you have a history with them. And instantly, the voice in your head, remember what they did to you? Remember what they said to you? And so what do? Like, beat down another aisle, right? Like, I'm not even going to greet you, much less love you, because of what you've done. You've been there? Sometimes it isn't what people have done or said, it's what they haven't done or said. unmet expectations. Okay, this is a killer in the home, specifically in marriages. Remember what they didn't say? Remember what they didn't do? So we were seeking affirmation, but they didn't say anything. We wanted their attention, but they were distracted. We wanted their appreciation, but they didn't even notice what we'd done. And so what do? We withhold love. So many broken relationships start out and continue this way. Unmet expectations, so I'm going to withhold love. 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 And the way to reverse that spiral is to walk in love. No matter how unmet your expectations are, no matter how you've been treated. So we don't walk in love sometimes because we're just so focused on us. Sometimes it's intentional as we've been hurt, so we withhold love. But as I shared earlier, I believe that one of the key reasons, and probably the biggest reason in our culture for us today as a body, would be that we can't walk in love if we're always running. If we're in a hurry, we don't notice other people. Other people become obstacles. We run past people or maybe even over people to get where we need to be, where we want to be. We need to slow down and notice people. It doesn't stop and smell the roses. Roses really don't matter. Stop and see the people. Open your eyes to the opportunity around you. See, when we're always running, we're blind. Does hurry really make that big of a difference? Let's revisit that experiment. Princeton Seminary. Okay, the first group that was told, hey, you have plenty of time, but you should head over, 63% stopped and engaged the person. Now, I'm not impressed by that number. I mean, at first, right? You're like, what, these are seminary students? And a third of them just walked right past them, but then it's like, okay, let's look in the mirror instead of out the window. I could easily walk past somebody. And do I stop every time I see somebody in distress or looking like they're hurting? No. What about those that were in a hurry? 10% stopped. 1 in 10. It went from 63% to 10%. Why? Because they were in a hurry. You want to know the craziest thing? I'm not making this up. They wanted to see if what the people were actually preaching on would make a difference. So half of the group that walked past, half of them were preparing a message on the story of the Good Samaritan. Like, how is it possible that I could spend a few minutes reading over a passage where Jesus describes the virtue in stopping and helping somebody that you see in need, in contrast to these others who didn't, and then walk right past somebody who was in need? I mean, was this just a bad crop of seminary students? And was this just the worst of the worst? Were they just hypocrites, or were they just in a hurry? I wonder how much hurry impacts you and me and our ability to walk in love. We can't walk in love if we're always running. The pace that most of us live at is robbing us of the ability to love. What if we slowed down enough? What if we could learn to slow down enough so that we could see the opportunity that was around us? Galatians 6:10, Paul writes to another church. He says, so then while we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. It's like, you have an opportunity. So what do we do with this opportunity that we have certainly when we're at home, but he says to all people, when we leave the house, how do we do good to all people? You know, for me, and this is something I think you can walk out of here and start trying to apply right away. How can I do good to all people? I mean, there's people that I don't have a relationship with. To me, joyfully serving someone is the easiest way to show somebody that you love that you don't have a lot of time or a lot of relationship with. Now, I want to clarify something. This is not a conversion tactic. Okay, this is not about, if you serve them, then maybe they'll give their life to Jesus right there, because it's not usually going to happen that way. But there are actually opportunities to serve all around. You can slow down and open the door for somebody else. It's just an easy thing. I always try to open up the door for somebody else and wait and let them go in front of me. Why? Because it's a reminder to me, it's not about you, Paul. It's not about you. Take the opportunity to serve. Jesus didn't come to be served, but to serve. In our family, Hatfields serve. We've been drilling this into our kids from the beginning. Hatfield serve. Why do I have to? Because Hatfield serve. It's what we do. Let others go in front of you in line at the grocery store. Certainly if they only have one or two items. But even if they don't, go ahead. Again, they're not going to fall on their knees and give their life to Jesus right then, probably. But it's not about that. It's about us walking in love. It's about us building habits of reminding ourselves that other people are important. Now, this one's going to seem crazy, and this is the point where some of you are going to check out and maybe even leave the room. What if you let other cars merge in front of you? Think about this. What if you actually looked for opportunities? What if you actually looked for opportunities? You left space for other people to come in front of you. Again, this is not to produce something in them. This is to produce something in us. This is building a habit of saying, I'm not the most important person on this street. I'm not in a hurry. Go ahead. You're more important than me. Don't just walk in love, drive in love. It's just a reminder that it's not about me. I currently work and love working in the service industry, focusing on hospitality. I love it. Because it's just about, hey, how can we serve people? And it's about training up young people. How do we serve people? How can we serve? Other people are important. Every person's important. How can we serve them? Can we walk in love? Can we drive in love? What about at home? Does hurry get in the way of our ability to show love to our kids, to our spouses? What if many of our conversations with our kids, many of our statements, certainly our most passionate ones, are about them moving faster? Hurry up. Let's go. Grab your shoes. Let's go. Stop talking. This one's crazy. Think about this. Stop talking and eat. Relationships are irrelevant. It only matters what we do next, right? That's crazy. We adopted our youngest two of our 5 kids are adopted from the Congo. They did not know English when they came home. So we had to learn Lingala. And I've said this many times. I'm still ashamed of it every time I do. But it feels like the most frequent words that we used in Lingala were noki, noki, noki. Fast, fast, fast. Tambolate, don't walk. Sequoia, sequoia, now, now. I wonder how, did they feel the love oozing out of me when we were using those words? We can't walk in love if we're always running. We can't walk in love if we're always running. Now, Paul doesn't just tell us the what, walk in love, but he actually lays out for us the how, the standard. It says, be imitators of God as beloved children and walk in love, just as Christ also loved you. Well, what does it look like to walk in love? Well, just imitate Jesus. Imitate God, specifically God, the Son, Jesus. Now, we can't really imitate somebody with whom we're not very familiar. I'm a basketball fan. Our family is a basketball family. We grew up in Southern California. I'm a Laker fan. I'm a Kobe Bryant fan. If there's any proof that this church welcomes everybody, that Tucker, who is a Celtic fan, would allow a Laker fan to get up here and preach. That says a lot. But if you're a basketball fan, even if you're not and you're curious, but if you've ever seen or want to go look on YouTube and just search Kobe Michael Jordan. And they're videos that have been put together showing Michael Jordan's moves and then showing Kobe do the same moves in a game. And it's not like one move. It's like, oh my gosh, like over and over and over again. That was Michael Jordan's move. That was Michael Jordan's. Even the tongue hanging out. He probably got that from Michael Jordan. It's crazy. You watch the videos and it's like Kobe, exactly what Michael Jordan did. He imitated him. How did that happen? Coincidence? You know, do you see it one time and go, oh, I'll just do that and just pick it up? I'll tell you how it happened. Hours and hours and hours of watching what Michael Jordan did and hours and hours and hours of practicing the moves until he got it right. How are we going to be able to imitate Jesus? Hours and hours and hours of looking at what he did and a lifetime of practicing to get it right. Our life is to be marked by walking with God, not running for him. We're designed to live in such deep connection with God that Jesus says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. That's how dependent you are with me, as hurry squeezing out our time with God, robbing us from the opportunity to walk in a loving relationship with God. We don't have the power to do this on our own. And if we're so depleted from a lack of a relationship with God, then we're starving for love. And so then we engage the world and it's all about, I need something from you, I need something from you, I need something from you. Take, take, take. Whereas if we have a vibrant, rich relationship with God, we just have everything to give when we enter into the world. I'm excited about the challenge to work through the Bible together as a church. I hope you'll join us in that. Our family's excited. Get the app, download it, work through it. You may miss a day here and there. Don't beat yourself up. Just pick up the next day. But if you could work through it, and I love, my favorite part about this reading plan is that you read the Psalms extra. I love the Psalms. Just to study the character of God and what he means to us and our response to that specifically. I mean, imagine if you spent so much time with God and so understood who he was and allowed him to work in your heart. That you didn't approach relationships thinking, what's in it for me, or how can I tell you how great I am? That you'd actually walk into a relationship going, I just want you to see God. It says, as beloved children. Those of us who are his children, who, if we're mindful of that relationship with God, then what else do we need? We can simply live our life in love towards him and in love towards others, not thinking about our wants and desires or how people are failing to meet them. But instead to walk out of an overflow of our relationship with God. Join us. I encourage you to stop by and talk to the team outside. If you have any questions on that, we can help get you set up. I'd say even if you're not a Christian yet, even if you're, seeking, then I would say just seek a little bit harder and say, hey, all right, I'll read the Bible with you. Let me see what this whole thing's about. Now, I love reading, as I was reading the Psalms, but the Gospels teach us, what did Jesus live like? I mean, if we could imitate how he behaved, what he did, then maybe there's something that we can learn. I'll take it. Even if you're not a Christian yet, if you believe Jesus was just a good teacher, well, then be taught by him, right? Read the Gospels. I mean, maybe at some point you'll believe, like we do, like most of us do, that he was much more than a good teacher, that he was God the Son who came and gave his life for us. But even as we are reading through in this issue of hurry, are there any things that we could think about, that we could notice in the Gospels that would address this issue of hurry? I mean, did Jesus, as you read through the Gospels, if you read them, do you ever get the sense that Jesus was in a hurry, that he was frantic, that he was so stressed out? No. In fact, the opposite. He seemed really busy, but he always had his priorities right. In Mark 10, Jesus was going from Jericho on his way to Jerusalem. He was going somewhere. Bartimaeus was sitting on the side of the road. It was a blind man, called out for help. What did Jesus do? He stopped and helped him. He healed him. He took the time to do that. He basically just lived out the story of the Good Samaritan for us. Imitate that. Ephesians 5:15 and 16, be careful how you walk, not as unwise men, but as wise, making the most of your time, because the days are evil. We need to be careful how we walk. We need to pay attention to the opportunity that we have. And if the greatest commandments are to love God and love people, then perhaps this verse means that we should shape our lives and time around that. That making the most of the opportunity that we have is to make sure that we are taking time to show love to God and love to people. It means that we're going to say no to some good things so we have the space to do the best things. For many of us, for most of us, the issue of hurry in our life is simply that we're doing too much. We don't know how to say no to things. We feel like every good opportunity is one that we have to take. It's not. There's some great opportunities that for your sanity's sake, for your family's sake, for the ability to love's sake, you need to pass on those things. Jesus didn't heal every person on the planet when he was on the earth. He didn't do everything that everybody wanted of him. Check out this passage in Mark 1. This is so helpful. Verses 37 and 38. You can look at it later if you want. The disciples found Jesus and he said to him, "Everyone is looking for you." You ever feel like that? We have 5 kids. We always feel like that, right? So much is pulling. Hey, what did Jesus do? Oh my gosh, I better go then. Don't want to disappoint people. I live on the approval of people. I got to go. I got to make sure they're happy. No. Look what he said. "Let us go somewhere else to the towns nearby so that I may preach there also, for that is what I came for." He knew what he was called to do. And so he was willing to disappoint some people in order to do what he was called to do. Eliminating hurry is going to require pruning in our life. This may be something you want to talk about on your way home today. Take some time this afternoon to reflect, maybe talk as a family. Hey, are we doing too much? What would it look like for us to walk in love? What if we slowed down enough to notice people and then figured out a way to show love to them? Do you suppose that we're called to walk in love when we're walking into this room on a Sunday? Do you know that people looking for a church most of the time decide if they want to come back well before the service starts? It's not about the pastor. It's not about the worship. It's about, do the people care about me? Do I mean anything to any of these people? When we first moved to Idaho 14 years ago, we were amazed. And those of you who are new to Boise, we still hear this about people in Boise are so friendly. And we would say, man, people in Boise are so friendly, except at church. And I wish I was kidding or exaggerating. That is exactly what we felt, what we saw. You could be in Walmart, and people make eye contact with you and smile. But you go to church, and you can walk right next to somebody, and they'll totally ignore you. Imagine if you got invited over to somebody's house this next weekend. Hey, we'd love to have you come New Year's Day party tomorrow. We'd love to have you over for New Year's party, watch some football games. Awesome, thanks. You go to their house, ring the doorbell, they open up. Hey, how are you? Welcome, come on in. And then they ignore you the rest of the time you're there. Is it possible that that's been somebody's experience today here? They got invited. Somebody opened the door for them. Welcome, we're glad you're here. And then all they've seen since they've been in this room is us talking to each other. They can tell we love each other. They just can't tell we love them. If that's been your experience today, I want to ask for your forgiveness. We're still working on it. We don't think we're perfect. It's why we didn't start the service off with the song, How Great We Art. Okay? Not about how perfect we are. It's about how perfect God is. We're still working on it. Hopefully after service, we can take care of that and get to know you. What gets in the way of us walking in love to church? I mean, of all places where we should be most attentive to other people, shouldn't it be here? And yet sometimes this is the hardest way to do it. Hurry gets in the way. For some of you, the issue is hurry. Poor planning gets you here late. You got to find your spot, got to get the kids checked in, got to get in here and get your seat. You don't even notice other people. That's for some of us. I think the biggest barrier here, why aren't we nice to new people we don't know at church? It's because we're paying attention to the people we already know. Our current relationships get in the way of us reaching out to people we don't know. Hebrews 13:2, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it. Don't neglect to show hospitality. Why do you think we have to be told to not neglect to show hospitality? It's because we're going to forget. Because we're going to neglect to show hospitality. Others are going to have to tell us to do it. Here's going to be your tendency. Your tendency is going to be to come in and only pay attention to people you know. You're going to see your friends. You're going to see your family. You're going to get in such a great conversation with them, and it's going to be awesome for you. But there's a stranger sitting next to you that you totally missed. I wish we could switch it to where we greet our friends and engage people we don't know. Greet our friends. Hey, it's great to see you. Let's go meet this person. I don't know them. Do you? Let's walk over and meet them. Even something as simple when you are talking to somebody you don't know on a Sunday in here, that you don't stand face to face. You stand side by side so you can still pay attention to other people, so you could welcome people into that conversation. Be here earlier so that you can have that time with the people you know before guests start showing up. I don't know that God's ever sent angels here to see how we would do. But I know that he sends hurting and broken people here every week. Years ago, I was on staff down in Southern California at a church. And one week we just heard of, through the news, of somebody who had taken their own life in our valley. And then a couple days later, I found out that they had actually visited our church the Sunday before. Now, I'm not going to make something out of what I don't know. I don't know if it would have made a difference. I don't know if somebody got in conversation with him. I don't know how he was welcomed. I don't know if he sat near me. I don't know if I saw him and didn't engage him, or maybe in this case, he was, treated really well, and it was, too late, he had already made up his mind. But if somebody came in here at the end of their rope, I'm going to give one more chance to see if I matter. Would they feel like they matter here? I want us to get to the point where we'd be like, yeah, man, absolutely. Pay attention to other people. Walk in love as you're walking in here. Some of you are introverts. I'm an introvert. This is not actually natural for me to go and talk to people that I don't know. A freeing line that I heard years ago that changed everything for me. Took all the pressure off. You don't have to be interesting. Be interested. It's not about you wowing this person with how great, your story is and tell them all this great stuff about you. Actually, people really don't like that. What they want to know is, do you care about me? Do you want to know my story? I'm so-and-so. What's your name? Awesome. Glad to meet you. How long have you been coming here? I don't know if we've met before. Cool. What are you doing for New Year's? What's your life situation? I'm interested in your story. Our weekend services ought to be the closest thing to heaven that people could experience on earth. Think about it, all God's people. Should be like a family reunion, because every person who walks in these doors is either our family or we're hoping they will be soon, right? Here's a little tip that you can do. Try to sit in the same general area every week and just make sure you get to know everybody around you. Build those relationships. If somebody's new is there, you don't recognize them, go sit next to them. Maybe not right next to them, leave a space, because that's weird. Just say, hey, is anybody sitting here? Can I sit here? Did you come with anybody? Oh, tell me your story. Are you connected? What an opportunity we have. My hope and prayer is that, we'd become a church that God would send hurting people to, because he knows we're ready. Because he knows we care. Because we know our eyes are up. We're looking for people that we don't know to welcome them. And this little, stand, turn around and greet each other thing that we do, wouldn't it be awesome if that didn't have to be said anymore? Hey, turn around and greet everybody. Like, I already did. Nailed it. Like, I already did. I already met all these people when I was there. What else would I do before this service? We're in church. I'm going to ignore people? Why wouldn't we, if this is our home church? Why wouldn't we talk to somebody we don't know? Why would we make sure they've met people, that they're connected, that their needs are met? There is no neutral response. We either engage or ignore. So I'd encourage you, engage. Talk to the people you don't know. It doesn't matter if they've been here a long time or if they're brand new. Your call is to walk in love. Your call is to walk in love. My call is to walk in love. Be imitators of God as beloved children and walk in love just as Christ also loved you and gave himself up for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God as a fragrant aroma. I'll say it again. This is not to produce something in the other person. This is not in to try to produce some kind of response to, this is not a conversion thing. What is this? This is you doing exactly what Jesus did, offering yourself to God as a fragrant aroma. And saying, I'm going to love this person. Whether they've been here for 10 years or they're brand new, whether things are great or they're hurting, it doesn't matter. They're a person that God has brought across my path, and therefore I'm called to love them. Jesus loved the Father and wanted to please him in everything. That's our call. That's the call in our life. Walk in love. Can you imagine what a difference it would make? How different would it be in your life for you if you started to make the habits of walking in love, if you sought to serve other people, if you started engaging people? How different would our church be, our church services be, if when people came in here, somebody engaged them? We just knew that's what we did. As with so many of us at this church, how different would our valley be if we walked in love?